Okay, this tutorial is for the best is yet to come faux shiplap sign. So I have all of my stuff laid out, and the first thing I want to do is paint the main board. So I've got the white paint here, and I'm literally just gonna, I actually like the sides of mine to stay as dark as possible. So I'm gonna keep my brush a little bit angled. If you plan on painting your sides, you can realistically go as quickly as you want because you don't have to worry about having messy sides. I want my sides to stay dark, so I'm just going to be a little bit more careful as I go across the edges, making sure you can see. And then as far as the actual like shiplap lines that I cut into your board, if you wanted to, you could try to flood them with your brush, or you can get like a little tiny detail paintbrush. As you can see, some paint got in that one. I like mine to stay dark. So you can either flood them with paint, or I will be including a toothpick with this kit so that just in case that happens, you can go through and clean that out a bit. Also wear gloves if you're worried about getting paint on your hands. I have gotten over that. So I'm just going to finish painting this background, and I'm going to pause while I finish doing that and get back on here. So I just finished painting the background, the first coat. So a couple of things I forgot to mention. You don't want to glob the paint on there and then spread it out. You're going to have really uneven areas, and it will also take forever to dry. So this is still a little bit wet in certain spots, but it's not bad at all. It actually dries pretty quickly. So I just put a little bit on my paintbrush and then kind of work my way across the edges first, and then I go towards the middle. So if you want kind of like the antique look, one coat is going to be perfect because you can still, as it's drying, once it's dry, you can still see some of the wood grain from in the background. And so another option you could do if you really want a distressed look is only do the one coat. When it's completely dry, take a piece of sandpaper and go over it, and that will give it more of a distressed look. For this one, I'm actually going to let it completely dry, and I'm going to do one more coat to make it a full white background. Okay, I'm almost done with my second coat, but I just wanted to show you really quickly. So I just get, well, it looks like there's a lot on there, but it's not. I just get a little bit on the ends, and then I angle my brush like this. If you don't care about the sides, then this doesn't matter. Get most of it off, and then I brush it towards the shiplap lines, and that will help prevent flooding. If you're really, really like want to make sure that you don't get the sides, then you're going to want to go slow and controlled. I'm doing my best to try not to get on the sides, but for this, I really don't care a lot. So I'm going a little bit faster and getting my hair in the paint. But actually, I didn't get any on the edges. I was going to say I probably would have to just give it a quick little sand, but I don't have to. So as long as you're not like putting your brush right next to it full of paint and then going over, you should be okay, and you shouldn't really get any flooding in the shiplap lines unless that's what you want, or really spilling over the edge. So that's a pretty opaque, is opaque the word? I don't know. It's a fully white background, which is what I wanted. So I'm going to set this aside while that dries. But I did want to just show you really quickly. So it doesn't look like I gave you very much paint. This is a 2-ounce container. They were out of, I wanted the 1/2 ounce and they were out of them. So I filled it to like right there, maybe 1/4 of the way up. I did 2 coats. I didn't paint the back because I just don't care about that one. I'm not going to see the back. However, I still have that much paint left. So if you mess up and you want to do extra, or if you want to paint the back, there's plenty of paint in this container for you to be able to do that. So I don't want you to be afraid that I'm going to leave you out to dry. Okay, let's do the greenery. So that's this cute little, oh, I love this green color. So I use the makeup sponges for these little pieces, and this is where your paper, your paper plate is going to come in handy. Can you see? Okay. So you just want to do, I've already used this sponge before, so it is clean. But you just want to do the very edges. If it's kind of hard to control a huge sponge, you can always cut it in half and make it smaller. So I'm just going to take and dip the edges, and I generally, just so you're aware, I generally give this like 2 coats. Then dab it on the plate to take off excess, and then I'm just going to go through and dab, not wipe, just dab up and down. And as you can see, that first coat is super light. But if you do too much, it's going to spill over the edges and look really, really messy. And I do the same thing with this one. I'm going to do my very best not to get on the edges. If a little bit does go over, you have 3 options. Number 1, ignore it. It's homemade. Number 2, you can get a little piece of sandpaper and sand it off, and it should come off very easily. Or number 3, these edges are pretty dark, so you can get like a brown or a black Sharpie and just go and line the outline of it, and that will cover it right up. Just dab, dab, dab. Same thing. These little containers look so tiny, but paint goes a really long ways if you're not just dumping it and smearing it all over the place. So you will have plenty for this project. And it dries fairly quickly because it's such a light coat. So like this top area is already dry, but I'm going to go ahead and push pause on this video. I'm going to let it completely dry, and I'm going to give it one more coat. Okay, so I just did my second coat, and as you can see, the edges look pretty clean. This side is great. On this side, you can see how it kind of bled over a little bit. Like I say, you can take a little bit of sanding paper to get that off if that's going to bother you. For me, I think it looks just fine. So till that completely dries, I'm going to set that aside. Then you're going to get the black. And also, there's still, I would say, 90% of the paint left in there. So you will have plenty. So we're going to go with the black, and this is where I'm going to get all of my letters. And get your other sponge, and the same thing. You're just going to, especially that first coat, I would let that first coat be really thin. And you can see how quickly I'm going. So if you really want to make sure that your edges are clean, just go a little bit slower than I am. And just, I think the most important thing is to make sure that you're just using the edge of your sponge. The words are gonna go very, very fast. And they don't look perfect right now. I don't know if you can tell from the video. I just do a really small or a very light first coat. I think it looks a lot more even and more professional if you just do 2 to 3 very light coats. If you glob it on, you're gonna have drips, you're gonna have uneven areas. So just be patient and have fun as you do it. This little eye is so teeny. Okay, so I'm gonna finish doing this. I'm just gonna finish these 2 words, and then literally this will already be dry by the time I get to that. So then I'm gonna start over and do a second coat. Okay, I finished painting everything, and with I had so much black paint left over, I went ahead and painted my stand black. So you can do that with some of your leftover paint, or if you have a specific paint color at home that you want to use instead, go ahead and do that. Okay, mine isn't completely dry yet because everything else went so fast, but it's good enough. So I'm going to go ahead and move on with that. So with this board, the lines run up and down. So when you're doing your spacing, I eyeball mine. You are more than welcome to measure it out if that's going to bother you. I just go ahead and eyeball it, and just keep in mind that you're going to put twine on both sides. Unless you decide to do yours different and you only want it on one side, then you can move it over more for the twine. But I'm going to do both sides. So I've kind of figured out that my 3 fingers is kind of where I want the farthest edge of each thing to go. So I kind of just put my 3 fingers here, my eyeball from top to bottom. That looks pretty good. And then the best is yet to come. Okay, so once I lay all of that out, so to come is going to be the longest sentence. So I lay my 3 fingers out, and then I know I want this here. And this script is like, so it's like a bouncy script, so it doesn't have to be perfectly straight because it already is bouncy. So once I figure out how far down I want the bottom line to go, then I kind of, that's about 2 fingers, I kind of mimic the top as well, and then go ahead and space it out that way. So in my example photo, I had most everything, what is the word, left hand aligned, I guess. I had everything kind of here, so the words kind of went like this. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and I don't know if I want it centered or not. I'm just going to do it. It's fine. And then my little eye. So once you have everything laid out, and then I kind of stand up and look at it, I'm like, okay, that looks pretty good. Like I say, if it's really going to bother you and you want to make sure that it's all perfect, then go ahead and measure it all out. And if you need help with those calculations, I can totally do that. So I am going to, get super glue all over my hands. So just so you know, when you tighten this, it shoots out. It shoots out the top. So I'm always covered in paint and super glue. Oh, before I forget, the most important piece of advice. Once you're done painting, because as you could see, I had paint on my fingers, I use all water-based paints. I want this to be as simple and less destructive as possible. So make sure that you wash your hands so that when you're touching your whiteboard and moving things around, you're not transferring the black and the green paint onto your whiteboard. Okay, so I have it all laid out. You're going to take your super glue. I don't like to get mine near the edges. If it gets like super close to the edges, it's going to splur out, and you're gonna see that. So work somewhat quickly, but I basically just kind of do an outline, and I don't let it glop up. As you could probably hear, I kind of drag it along the wood, and then just kind of, once you lay it down, I just hold it down for like maybe 10 seconds, and then it's pretty set. It's a very scientific process. Okay, and then I'm going to let that finish drying. And then when it comes to the words, so obviously there's some really skinny parts there. You can try to get super glue on every single part, but I pretty much just focus on the large areas. I don't have little kids I'm expecting to come and try to destroy things. So I'm not that concerned with it, because they're not just going to pop off if you're not really trying to make it come off. So once I do that, I actually probably flooded that way too much, so it might squirt out the sides, but that's okay. Same thing, press it down for just a little bit. And then I just want you to know, if I'm actually making signs to sell, I am very, very particular. Everything would be measured. For instance, if I was planning on selling this, everything would be measured. Everything would be done precisely. I spend a lot more time than if I'm doing it for myself. So I hope that I'm not like, oops, like scaring you. Like, how in the world does she do this for a living? Just on the bigger parts. Okay, I'm going to finish gluing this because I don't want to feel like I need to talk, and then I'll come back on. Okay, so far, that's where we're at. And I mean, don't do this to your sign, but just in case you're wondering, like, yes, super glue is very, it's very sturdy. And also, before I forget to mention, these little yellow ones, they're single use only, which is why it splurted everywhere when I wasn't paying attention. So throw them away when you're done. The bigger tubes, I send those with, like, if there's a lot more things to glue, those you can put the caps on and reuse them. So throw this away. You can keep the extra paint. Obviously that's reusable, but not your super glue. Okay, almost done. So if you like that look, the simple look, then it's completely finished. You are good to go. But if you wanted like the example photo, there's 2 pieces of twine. Get one of them out and start in the back. And then just wrap it around about 3 times. Yes, 3 times. And then they'll meet up, and I just tie a knot. Nothing too fancy. And I will want to cut that just to make it not stick out of the back. And then do it to the other side. Start in the back, go around 3 times. I hope I'm not making this look more difficult than it is. I'm trying to put together kits that even people who feel intimidated by making things will be able to feel successful at and not frustrated. I don't want anyone to feel like walk away feeling like, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing I've ever done. If that happens, let me know and we'll get you some more help. Okay, I'm gonna mess with this after because that will bug me. I need my strings to be somewhat even. I'm going to try to, I wanted to try to ignore it for a minute, but I need to fix it now. There we go. Okay. I just need to cut these strings because they're way too long. But anyways, this is your craft, and obviously you can have your strings look like whatever you want them to. And then here's the stand. And it sits just so. Or you could put, you could get another twine and you'd have to staple or glue it to the back. And then you can make it into a little hanger. You can put a command strip on the back of it because it's really light, so it's easy to hang on your wall. And it's this cute little 3D. I think it's perfect for the new year. So that is it. I can't wait to see yours when you're finished with them. I hope that you post when you're done and let me know how it went. I value any feedback you have to give me. I would love to take into consideration all of your comments for the next box. Let me know. This is my first adult DIY kits. So let me know what worked, what was frustrating, and we can work the kinks out together. Thank you.